It's time for the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. The podcast you look forward to for all of your news and reviews of the best comic books hitting stands. Whether it's DC,
Batman, Wonder Woman,
Marvel,
Spider-Man,
Image,
Spawn, Saga,
Boom,
Once and Future, Power Rangers,
or whatever book or publisher you follow,
we cover them all here.
this is the place for you.
That's right, it's for everyone.
This is the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast.
Let's get it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Theo, doing a little something different this time around. There'll be no top 5 this week, but instead, this is going to be a full indie spotlight episode. We've got 2 interviews that I am going to play back for you. The first one will be with comic book publisher and writer Bandy over at Crimson Sleeper, and we'll be talking about his Kickstarter campaign, Psion. The second issue is in this campaign. You'll also be able to get copies of issue number 1 as well if you didn't back the first issue back then. And we'll talk a little bit about the story behind Psion. So there'll be some spoilers for issue number 1, as well as what you might be able to expect as a backer for issue number 2. And then after that, I will play an interview that I did with comic book publisher Tony Kittrell over at Advent Comics. It is their 17th anniversary this year, and they got some things planned for that. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those plans, and then we'll talk about his Kickstarter campaign for his one-shot Doll Valley. I'm actually a backer of that, as well as on Psion. But we'll talk a little bit about the story behind Doll Valley. When you look at the covers that are available for you, and you look at the story, you wouldn't think that it's actually a tribute to some of his co-workers. But we'll talk a little bit about the story behind Doll Valley, and hopefully you'll go and back it as well as I did. That one is actually running through the end of June and ending on July 1st. So we'll talk a little bit about that campaign as well as some of the other stuff, again, that Advent has going on, especially the big crossover that currently is being done with regards to Epiphany engine. It's something I'm waiting for the ability to get a copy of myself. We will talk a little bit about that as well. But again, no top 5 this week. I'll talk a little bit, once we get through the interviews, I'll talk a little bit about what's on tap for the next episode and this weekend at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, I'll be moderating the panel, and I hope those who are visiting Charlotte and attending Heroes Con will be able to come on and stop by and support the panel. Got some great panelists who will be joining me on stage talking about the world of comic book podcasting, particularly amongst people of color. So I hope you all, again, who are in attendance in Charlotte, will be able to stop by and partake in that conversation that we're having. I'll be having some prizes and giveaways on Saturday, just hint, hint. But with that being said, here is my interview with comic book writer Bandy talking about Psion number 2, that Kickstarter campaign that's going on, and it ends next week. So again, wanted to get that out there so that we can go ahead and back it and make sure that it is fully supported. And then when we get back, we'll play my interview that I did with Tony Kittrell over at Advent Comics, talking about their projects as well as his Kickstarter campaign for Doll Valley. So here again, my interview with Bandy talking about Psion number 2 and that Kickstarter campaign. And I will see you all on the other side. Hey folks, so instead of having my usual indie spotlight, I'm going to do a little something different. This episode, I have Bandy with me. Mark is publisher and owner of Crimson Sleeper Studios, the publishing company behind Psion. Issue 2 is out on Kickstarter. And Mark, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And I'm doing well. It's been a good day, a little busy, but yeah, everything's been going good so far. I've been nothing to complain about.
So before we started recording, Mark and I were talking. So we have a lot in common. Both Mark and I are Louisiana boys. Mark is a little bit north of, or at least he used to live, a little bit north of where I am, north of Baton Rouge. But Mark is from Alexandria, Louisiana, which in normal senses should have been the state of Louisiana's capital, because it's like smack in the middle of the state. And I'm about 2 hours south of that now, again, north of Baton Rouge. But we also have ties because he is an alum of an HBCU, of Jackson State University. I have relatives who graduated from Jackson State. So we spent a few minutes talking about some of the antics that I used to run with family at Jackson State, representing the blue and white from Jackson State. So again, small world after all, even though we are thousands of miles apart. Mark is near the West Coast in Arizona. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about Psion. And this, issue 2 is out. Issue 1 was kind of an introductory to all of the main characters and kind of some backdrop into what we're going to be seeing in the future issues. So tell us a little bit about Psion and how you came up with the idea of it.
Got you. So like Theo said, my name is Mark, and this is my debut comic book, Psion. So it is a supernatural thriller that's set on a college campus. It follows this young criminology major, John, who is caught in a conspiracy. There's some strange people offering charity on campus, and he seems to be the only person skeptical. Think Sherlock Holmes, but with some supernatural themes in the background. It's a long time coming, if I'm being honest. It's a culmination of a lot of different personal interests, inspirations, experiences. But I would argue that the 3 biggest inspirations that come from this are a general love for comics and manga, my experience as a student at Jackson State, and then I would say my Catholic upbringing, or just like my Creole heritage in general, mostly that, because you already know if Creole and Catholic kind of are a bit intertwined at times. So it was me kind of getting to find like a crossroads, if you will, being from Alexandria, being from that center point, right? I was trying to find a crossroads between all 3 of those points. And I think that Psion is effectively where I landed. And the idea kind of grew from this original joke of, what if Dwayne Wayne from a different world was a spirit detective? Because one of my favorite animes ever was Yu Yu Hakusho, and I love Yusuke so much. But as a Creole person, as people from Louisiana, we got plenty of Southern magic and Southern Gothic kind of tapestries to work with. We got spirit world at home, if you will. So I wanted to know what like a Southern Gothic spirit detective would look like. I wanted to know what a detective walking the crossroads and what their story might look like, but if we kind of gave it that polish, or just like the maybe some of like the themes and like some of the heartwarming undertones you might see in something like shonen, that you might see in something like Yu Yu Hakusho. So and obviously we have a lot more inspirations that we love comic books. Heroes, the TV show, another big one. It was probably the first time I ever thought about superheroes not having capes, so that was a big inspiration for this as well. But it's a really big gumbo, if you will, of a lot of different pieces that have really kind of stuck with me over time, that I kind of have put together into this package, into this story.
Okay. So you tie a lot of you, Mark, into the story. It's set in Jackson, Mississippi. You base the college, Gibbs Green, after Jackson State. Are any of the characters within Psion based on any characters that you may have met in your personal life?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I was lucky enough to ask these people in my real life that I was inspired by if I could use them in my comic, and they were lucky enough to let me use them. I was fortunate enough that they let me use their likeness. So, John, our lead character, he's a real person. John Lewis is a real man. He is a person who who lives every day in the shadow of Representative Lewis, has a very strong name. He actually got to meet Representative Lewis at one point when he was doing junior representatives. He got to kind of shake his hand and tell the joke, "Hi, Representative John Lewis from Atlanta. It's nice to meet you. And he's like, I'm John Lewis from Atlanta. So we get to have that little fun little moment with him. And me and him have often talked about the weight of having an important name and how you kind of walk with a different type of certainty sometimes whenever you walk with their name in tandem. So he was important. He's a person I definitely know in my real life. Willie's a person I definitely know in my real life. I love Willie to death. He is definitely a campus comedian. He used to roast me like he did in that comic book in real life. Actually, the first scene with Mason where he meets him, that happened in real life. we drummed it up a little bit, obviously, but no JoJo's Bizarre Adventure poses in real life. But it was very much us wanting to put Willie's, because Willie wasn't going to just, rag on you if you didn't deserve it. He was very much looking to kind of put the pieces together with jokes. And I really wanted to kind of tell that character, that type of character I wanted to have on campus. On top of that, Vincent's also someone I know as well. Vincent, I actually went to high school with back in Alexandria, and I found out that he actually went to Jackson State before I got there. So when I kind of found out that someone that I knew from my little small high school that had barely any black people in it was at Jackson State, I was like, oh no, bro, the world's a lot smaller than I think it is, and I need to stop feeling I'm so far away from home, right? So it was kind of getting to put like the campus athlete, the student athlete, being able to put that into a character and being able to put Vincent's likeness to it was super awesome, especially as someone that I was a senior. I think I was a senior when Vincent was a freshman when we were in high school. So I was in that senior, we were like that mentor mentee type space back then. So being able to kind of put him into the book was super cool. Because I got to age up the little freshman I knew back in my memory, you know what I mean? And showcase his feats as a grown man in college. So I would say those three people, 100% one-to-one directs, but everyone else in the story, I would argue I pulled definitely from people that I've known. If not from myself directly. Mason shares my likeness. He shares a little bit of my backstory, not everything. We're definitely different people. But to give him a little bit of to play into the joke, I made him from Marksville, Louisiana, to play into the joke, right? Since he has Mark's likeness, we're gonna make him from Marksville, make him from the middle of a Vols, right? So
so for you all who don't know Louisiana, Marksville is an actual town.
Yes, it's a real place. It's an actual place.
It is home of the Paragon Casino.
Yes, I'm gonna be honest, a jewel of Central Louisiana as far as casinos could go. It's definitely one of the best casinos in the area for sure. Especially if you want to go to see concerts and stuff. Patty LaBelle's not coming to Alexandria; she's going to the Paragon. So we got to put all of these people into the book, and it really helped me make them into more real people. And that was a big part, because I didn't want to just give flat characters. I wanted everyone to feel. I wanted to build out a college campus and make it feel as alive and colorful as an HBCU is, because you'll see blackness isn't a monolith, and the best way to showcase that is on a black campus. You get to see just so many different walks of life, and being able to really put that into an ensemble cast was important.
Yeah, I always tell folks, just a little off topic, that if I had to do it again, I'm a graduate of the University of New Orleans, but if I had to do it again, I would go to an HBCU and, spending time. I worked, I ended my career in higher ed working at an HBCU, and it's just done differently in all the good ways possible. And yeah, if I had to do it all again, that's what I would do. But you mentioned the characters, and the one who really, really got me was Danita. When I read Danita, her voice for some reason is from Dawn Lewis's character from A Different World. And the only difference is that she's younger. Dawn, her role, she was more of a mama figure, but Danita is really like a sister, best friend to John, but she's also like this big advisor to him also. She's pushing him along. She's giving him advice. Hey, what's going on with you and your girl? You can kind of left her hanging. So, she's a little different. She's really, being an exchange student, she's from Africa. She's wiser than what her age seems to show.
No, I definitely agree, and I'm really glad that you like see that parallel. It was really important for us to not only relate these characters to what they might look like in Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Having John look like Yusuke, having Danita look like Botan, all these things, right? Well, a mix of Botan and Kuwabara, right? It's also important to see how they relate to a different world. John being Dwayne, Jean being our Whitley, Danita definitely fits into the Dawn aspect of that hierarchy. And Dawn was one of my favorite characters in those early seasons of A Different World, because I think that she really got to showcase a lot of the frustration that the viewer had with some of the other people watching the cast be so immature at times. It felt like she was the only person who kind of had their head screwed on straight. But one thing that I didn't like in the later seasons is that they did push her off into that matron role almost exclusively, especially considering that they decided to have her marry
Sinbad.
Well, no, it was they had her. It was what's his name? Glenn Turner. Glenn Turner's character. Yeah. They had him marry. Yeah, exactly. The age gap. Yeah, exactly. Age gap relationship. They're not. It's not too bad. Glenn Turner just whited a little bit earlier in real life than he's not nearly as old as he looks. Right. And then on top of that, he doesn't look very old. Like if you look at him from like he didn't age a day from like I would argue the end of A Different World to if you saw like John dies at the end, because he's in that movie as well. Those movies, I think that movie that's like a 25-year time difference. He hasn't aged a day. So it just kind of shows that like they had him playing a particular aged character, if you will, an older, mature character, and they just decided to pair her up with him. Yeah, exactly. They pair her up with somebody who's responsible, right? Because she wants responsibility in her life. I wanted her to be able to kind of find and fight for that responsibility amongst her own age, amongst the students. And like that was something that I really wanted to showcase, is that she would be nurturing towards her friends. She would care about what they're doing. It's really cool that you got this offer from the FBI, John. That's really cool. But like, don't leave Jean hanging. You know what I mean? That's all important, because that's one thing I also didn't like sometimes when I read comic books. Bruce Wayne's supposed to be, Mr. Prime Bachelor of Gotham. I mean, he can't return a phone call.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't like that. I don't like that you can do all these superhuman things, but then the girl is the thing that you fumble in your life. I don't think so, Bucko. I think that I think a real man would start his day knowing that she needs to get figured out first, and then we can do the superhero stuff after. So that way, if it does take my whole day, at least she got taken care of. And like that's the type of man John is. And like Danita's just kind of reminding him of that. Like, hey, I know you had to kind of lock yourself in your dorm room and go through about 3 12-packs of Coca-Cola to get through all this work, but like you need to come up for air. You know what I mean? And remember, you have some other responsibilities besides school, work, and your future, because you want Jean to be a part of your future, right? And like that, a woman is going to be that character in your life sometimes, at least for, I think, a protagonist like John. Obviously, the men in your life can help you too, but they might also be, they're dating women too. You know what I mean? You're in the same bracket as far as like competition is concerned. Obviously, we're running different times on the lap. We're all trying to get our own lap times, right? But at the end of the day, like they might be a little bit jaded by the process. Someone who's exterior to the process might need to be the person to give you that advice. And your best friend who's a woman in your life might be that person. So we really wanted Danita to get to showcase that maturity, but get to be her age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she's wiser than what her age shows. She's a freshman, she's underclassman just like the rest of them, but she doesn't act like it. She acts like she's been there, and she's trying to make sure that everybody's on the up and up, particularly John. So we spoke about the main characters, the true characters. Let's talk about the character that Court says is a person as well, and that is the Corporation Medici. And they're not, while they're a company, they're a bunch of companies. How did you come up with the idea of creating Medici?
So it's a very funny story. Now, obviously, a big Milestone fan. I think anybody who read the original Milestone, you had the system, right? Mm-hmm. Which was a bunch of different pieces of corporate partners kind of creating this like mold to kind of center everything, right? But they were working behind the scenes. They were like this kind of it was like this is like what's going on behind the scenes, and they don't want you to know what's happening type deal. I always liked the system, but I wanted to kind of build on top of that framework. What if the system went public, right? What if each company that was a part of this, this black market framework, if you will, what if they had to all put their money where their mouth is because they want to do something more than just be behind the scenes, right? And it was birthed from, funny enough, an episode of Parks and Rec. It was I've had this idea for a long time. It was when I watched the finale of Parks and Rec. They did a flash forward into the future. And I don't know if you've seen Parks and Rec, but like the show is it wants to end on heartwarming notes when it can, but it gets very, very real sometimes. And like when a finale in this type of show, like a mockumentary style happens, they want you to have closure. So they're going to kind of hit you in your heartstrings a little bit. And it's funny enough as is to say, one of the main characters, Andy, he had a closed circuit TV show, like a PBS type show, right? It was on its last episode, similar to Parks and Rec for that episode. So it was him kind of doing it like a really big to do for the kids for the last big episode, right? Because they really liked him. And it was like, I think it was like a karate themed like TV show where you can solve anything with karate, right? Something like that. And like for like 5 and under type kids. And it's like his wife running production while he's doing this final episode. And she kind of just runs backstage and kind of starts crying mid-production. And he like follows her. He's like, "Baby, what's wrong?" And she's like, "You're like really good at this. Like you shouldn't have to stop doing this." And he kind of just looks at her and like he parrots, because he's the most lovable dummy you could ever have, right? He parrots this commercial that's been going on in the background of this episode the entire time, because it's in the future. We're assuming that all the corporations have all conglomerate together, right? So the sponsor for this TV show is Verizon, Chipotle, Exxon, because Verizon, Chipotle, and Exxon, what do they all have in common? They supply energy. So it was like those 3 companies should never be together. And Andy looks at his wife and he goes, "It's okay, babe. I don't need this. Like, you're my Verizon, Chipotle, Exxon." And I'm like, that's heartwarming, but also terrifying. Verizon, Chipotle, Exxon should never happen. And and it was pretty much, Medici was birthed from this idea of like, what if like the corporate BS just went to like a super high level, like to the point where a Verizon, a Chipotle, and an Exxon somehow think that they need to partner up. That's the end of it all for us. Like that's the beginning of the end for us. And like that's where we ended up getting Medici. We ended up kind of taking the 6 letters, obviously inspired by the Medici family from history, from like the Renaissance era, the famous patron family that like essentially they had a bunch of black market schemes in the background. They funded a lot of wars and different things, but they're mostly known for their art. They're mostly known for the fact that they funded most of the great artwork that was kind of made during the Renaissance era, especially all the artwork in Florence. So we took inspiration from the Medicis to make Medici. And we decided to name each letter in the company after a different corporation. So we have Mediafy for M, we have Ecos Chemical for E, we have Dist Cola for D. The first I is Iwa Motors, our C is for Koros Capital, and our last I is for Indio Pharma. So we kind of took a bunch of blue chip stocks. I used to work at Wells Fargo. I was like, okay, what blue chip stocks have they kind of got together? Would I be the most afraid of as a person who's kind of worked in finance and kind of know what this is when it gets bad, right? When the numbers start moving in a bad direction. And I kind of settled on these. I went with like essentially like a Google equivalent. We went with like a BASF or like an Exxon equivalent. Dist Cola is definitely Coca-Cola, because if you drink it, they make it. So we different things like that. E was a motor company. They're like Honda, but if they were made stateside completely. Koros is like a rush card joke. Koros Capital is actually a play on rush card. They actually are known. They changed the game up with their Koros card. I actually made a little keychain version here in 3D.
Did you make a keychain for each of them?
I did. I actually did. Yeah. I mean, I got one for Iwa right here too. Yeah. And one for Indio. I got one for Indio too. And Indio's our problem child. They are they're like our pharmaceutical big pharma company. So we made this big conglomerate, kind of putting all these players together to kind of spark fear in everyone. Like, what happens whenever all these folks get together and claim that they could fix the world through charity? What happens when they decide that they could come together, create a bunch of initiatives, and by just saying we're stronger together than alone, claim they could fix all your problems? we're probably going to get chopped up in the process. You know what I mean? And they're clearly doing this for something else. Like, what is it? And a person like John is the wrong person to mess with because he's a detective and he's going to want to figure out what it is.
So they have a special piece in John's life here early in Psion #1, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who missed out on the campaign for issue #1, because you'll be able to get it in in the campaign for issue #2. But that interaction between John and Medici kind of brings us to the superhero without capes type story, because by the time we get to the end of issue 1, John is starting to go through some things, and it's really affecting him, and visually and everything. So tell us about that interaction again without spoiling.
So it was, I'll talk about the inspirations for it, so that way we can kind of walk through. So my background, I went to Jackson State for biomedical engineering, and my mom always wanted me to be a doctor, and I didn't go to med school because I became very disenchanted with the medical industry a little bit before COVID, honestly, but definitely through COVID, because I went through some very bad bouts of medical racism, pretty much because of how poorly visible things were during COVID. It was so easy for people to kind of engage in medical misconduct during that time, and I got to see the full brunt of it. And after a life of kind of hearing stories, seeing the rough interactions, third person, having it happen to you while the pain's happening, it's different than just reporting about it. It happened to you. And it made me really, like, everything made sense. Every time my grandfather didn't want to go to the doctor, every time, it all made sense, because at the end of the day, you can't trust these people to fix you. And that's what we're working with. We're working with this idea of, can Black people trust the Western medical care system to treat them with the same amount of care as they do their white counterparts? Because there are so many ingrained medical racism tropes and standards that we are actively trying to fight against, that even the best doctors don't question, because they just think it's right and they don't want to kill you. Meanwhile, their ignorance is what is going to get you killed. Like, for example, Black women having Black women have a higher pain tolerance. No, they don't. They use that as an excuse to cut deeper into women during surgery and to give them less pain medicine while they do it. I know that's true because they did it to my stepmother, to the point where she had she didn't even get to have full control over how she could have muscular control over her body after having a kid, because they decided to do a C-section incorrectly on her. It's things like that. Black women are dealing with that on a daily basis, and Black men have been historically dealing with it also on a daily basis. When we look at things like the Tuskegee experiment, we got to reference that specifically in this issue, and that's what we wanted to talk about. Was when you close your eyes and you go under, it's a toss-up, and to say it's not a toss-up is a joke, because we have so much evidence that it is, and so many situations where malpractice has specifically been targeted against Black and brown people and women at disproportionate rates. So we wanted to lean into that fear, we wanted to lean into the horror element of that, of you don't know something's wrong until you start having adverse effects from it. And by that point, it might be too late. So we wanted to lean on those fears, and I think that we definitely got to accomplish that with the third act.
Okay. Yeah, as someone who works in healthcare, it is definitely a stigma that we deal with on a consistent basis, because, my facility, we cater to underserved communities, primarily rural communities. So yeah, it is a stigma, where until it's sometimes too late, patients aren't seeing doctors, and they're not coming in for preventative care, which could prevent, worse things from happening. So I definitely see it in my workplace. So let's talk a little bit about the campaign for Psion number 2. Psion number 2. It is out now on Kickstarter. The link will be in the show notes. We have a couple more weeks of it going on. It's already fully funded, but we want to make sure that we get it super funded, before the 16th of June. What can fans look for in the campaign as far as rewards that'll be available?
So that's a really good question. We have a lot of rewards, from digital to even clothing, comic books. You can even get drawn into the comic. So our lowest tier, I believe, is $5, which is a digital copy. And we have digital copies of Psion number 1 and number 2. So you can pick up both of those, I believe, for $10 total, $5 a piece. We also have physical copies of every single cover that we have for both Psion number 1 and number 2. Those are all $15 a pop. We also have a bunch of bundles. You can get comics and clothing together because we have clothing from the series. I think I have it right here. Yeah, we have Psion clothing. This is actually our full art T-shirt. I have some of the artwork from Psion issue 1 on the back of this T-shirt. I believe it is this page right here. If I can pull it out. But we have a bunch of Crimson Sleeper Studios merchandise. We have a T-shirt where you can get this artwork on the back of it right here, this page. We have metal covers of both Psion issue 1 and Psion issue 2. They are actually on full aluminum plate, so the actual full front surface is hard aluminum metal, and we are actually going to be getting them embossed. So you'll be able to rub your hand across the surface, and it'll have like a textured display along the artwork, which I'm super excited about. We also have bundles where you can save money. You can grab everything in different tiers. We have a retailer's bundle. So if you are a comic book shop and you're interested in us, we do have a bundle available to you to buy wholesale. And we also have a bundle where you can get drawn into Psion issue 3. So if you like the story enough and you like Che's artwork enough, you can actually get drawn into the next issue.
Okay. So who is Psion for? What type of reader would want to pick up Psion?
So I would say Psion is for a lot of folks, but specifically for, I would say, Black people who went to HBCUs in the South. That's who I made the comic book for. It's for people who know about the HBCU experience and want to see it immortalized on the pages of a comic book and artwork. Because when I went into all of this, obviously I wanted to make Black comic books. I wanted to try and bridge this representation gap that we're kind of seeing right now in the main line, big two, with the larger press publishers. And I specifically wanted to kind of follow in the footsteps of Milestone. But it's very important that when we do so, that we're making sure that like the folks who are getting this book the most do, kind of like in a Toni Morrison sense. Like, I don't mind if someone exterior to my worldview really relates to this book. If anything, that really inspires me to keep writing it, because it means that it's not something that only was important to me. But I hope that people aren't discouraged when I tell them that I specifically wrote this for us. And that I hope that people find solace in knowing that, like, if you were like me and you'd never seen an HBCU comic book out there before, which I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's out there. There's a lot of comic books, but I'd never seen it. If you're like me and you'd never seen it, maybe this is the opportunity for you to have that. And for you to essentially, be a student at Gibbs Green College with the students here in our book. So I would say first and foremost, that's who our book is for. Secondarily, I would say that our book is for lovers of 90s television and anime. If you are a person like me who kind of grew up with your mama kind of asking you to turn off Toonami so that way she could watch Living Single, this is for you. If you are part of that generation and you know about that, this might pique your interest, because we're really trying to do this for the culture. Like, we're trying to make the ancestors proud with this one. And we're kind of burying the lead right now. We're leading in with a really kind of traditional grounded story. But once we finally got y'all kind of hooked in on who we are and what this story is, it's going to be fifth gear from there. So if you kind of like Southern Gothic stuff that also gets a little bit spooky, a little bit out there, and a little bit supernatural, the story is also for you too. Okay.
And so what else is coming up from Crimson Sleeper? I mean, you created this business. What can fans expect coming out from Crimson Sleeper in the future?
So right now, I can't give too much away, but I can tell you what I've told some other folks right now, which is I'm actively looking for an artist to collaborate on with for a pitch. I have a script ready. I need an artist. Specifically, I need a woman. Bonus points if you're a black woman. Like if you're a black woman, and I like the art style. That's a wrap. But the story has 5 female principal characters and 1 male principal character. So I really need someone who is a woman to help guide me through telling the story correctly. It's very, very personal to me. It's inspired by my childhood because I grew up in a single parent household. My mom, my nana, and my gram raised me growing up. And I want to kind of tell a story about finding your strength as a man who is raised around such powerful women. Making sure you don't fall into the pitfalls of toxic masculinity, and don't also try to be a savior to people who don't need your help. So the art style is Art Nouveau inspired, like pre-World War II type artwork from France and from Europe. The prompt I gave was that it's an Art Nouveau good time being ruined by Art Deco. So if you like Art Deco or Art Nouveau, both of those things would be great. Like the Belle Epoque, like that era of artwork is very much a big inspiration here. But yeah, that's kind of what I have, what I'm kind of trying to manifest right now. I have a bunch of other scripts figured out. I have a bunch of peripheral stories surrounding Psion that I want to get done, but I want to get a bunch of issues of Psion out first before I start building that out. So as far as things that I would want to start getting immediately produced, it would be that. So I know it's not much. I know I didn't really tell you much.
No. I mean, you said a lot because again, you have this plan as far as what you're looking to do, and you got a plan to put it out there. And if there are any artists female artists, black female artists who are watching this right now, reach out to Mark. I'll have his contact info in the show notes so that you all can connect and get together. So part of the reason why Mark and I got together is, of course, over the past couple of months, there's been this conversation with regards to support of black comic creators. And it's been a healthy conversation. I guess we can say it's been healthy, even though there's been disagreement on both sides. But me personally, I've tried to, with the individuals that I've had on the show, is, to get both sides of the argument. So let's talk a little bit about that, because this kind of came together because you were kind of challenged in your role. And, I don't want to get too particular into the challenge, but where do you stand as a comic creator who has to use, self-publishing and sources such as Kickstarter in order to get your content out in the market and into hands of readers like me?
So that's a good question. And I think that when it comes to supporting black comics, it's going to be a question of what do you know is out there. I think that me and a lot of my fellow creators, we talk a lot about there's a lot of folks who just don't really know we're out here. And it might be because the big two is so loud, or because Image and all the other large press indie folks are really putting out some bangers. But whenever you do start to slowly build your community up on a place like Kickstarter, right, you really start to see just how much these folks need these stories. Not want, need. And that it fills your cup in a different way. I love cons. I love going to comic book stores, setting up for a day and getting to meet the communities there. Those type of interactions, they fill your cup up in such a unique way. And I think that when we have Kickstarter as an option, it lets us make a big deal out of these books, and it lets our fans get excited about them. Like I know a lot of people who probably saw me during this rollout probably saying, man, he's doing too much, doing a lot, right? I think people have been telling me I've been doing a lot my whole life. I think this might be the first time it was actually necessary. I think maybe I was try-harding to practice for this exact moment. And like now it's how much can you actually do? Like, okay, the spotlight's on you, said you can do something. What can you do? And it's like, well, I can work until I fall asleep. And like that's what I've been trying to do ever since I was issued this challenge. Can we rally Black indie together? Can we prove that Black indie has staying power? And can we prove that we don't need static to do it? I think that that's big, specifically because a lot of people might say that, maybe static is the draw. Maybe it's not Stephanie Williams and Morgan Hampton and Nicholas Draper Ivey and Joe Illidge on the Dakota incident. Maybe it's the fact that we have all the DC characters coming back and then Superman and the Justice League show up. I doubt it. I think that those creators, along with their editor, Marquise Draper, really made sure to make this an amazing story because, like I said, it's work until it's time to put the spotlight on you. And now you get to hit your mark. You're not going to have a lot of time to get this done. And how much you've practiced up to this point is going to determine how well you can execute now because there's not a lot of time on the clock. So getting to build my community like this, having folks like you invite me on your show so that way I can talk to your communities and just let them know that Psion exists. We're in a new age. We've never had this type of access before. And I truly do believe that Black indie is in a renaissance right now. And I think that if we can continue to build up on our side, the big two will have nothing else to do other than reflect our excellence. So I hope that that's what we can build.
Yeah, I often say, again, telling my age, I'm closer to 60 now than I am 50. But I've been collecting comics and reading comics since the age of 9. And, I'm someone who, again, no doubt read the big two, but hey, I also remember in 1993 when I'm in the comic book shop as a high school senior and I see the first issue of Static and I see the first issue of Icon and I see the first issue of Hardware and I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And as of late, I have been, and when I say as of late, I mean over the last 5-10 years, again, because I'm old, I've been reading more and more indie comics. And most of it is due to them being available on Kickstarter because, it's become an avenue. It's become a repository where, it's a place where you can now put these things out there where you may not have had the ability because, hey, DC and Marvel isn't going to pick up every pitch that comes towards them, especially if it's not one of their characters. And, you have a publisher like Image who may be able to say, yeah, we'll do this for you, but you got to pay for it all up front. And so, for Black comic creators, those avenues aren't routes that you may be able to take. So you have places like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and now there's, Fund My Comic, that those things are coming out there. And I am personally happy to see creators more and more take advantage of it, to get their content out there. Because again, without it, unless you have the ability to, again, just throw money into building websites and, opening up stores and doing pop-ups all over the place, you can't get your content out there. So yeah, I have been a super backer on Kickstarter for years, primarily due to supporting Black comics. The very first one that I remember doing years ago was Noir's New Black. When Fair Square Graphics dropped that, and I've been doing it ever since. And so, it's something that I'm happy is there for folks like you to put your product out there. Because if not, it won't get to folks like me. And you're right. If I don't know, I can't support. And I can't get out there and invest, because I'm an investor. I invest in these things when I put my money into it. And so, yeah, I definitely feel you and get you with regards to, creators getting your content out there in the public. And the sun is going down because it's shining right on my face. But Mark, again, issue 2, the campaign is going on over on Kickstarter. The link will be on the show notes. You have until June the 16th. That is a Tuesday to get that done. How can fans keep up with other stuff that you have going on in the world over there at Crimson Sleeper?
So you can find us online at pretty much any social media outlet at Crimson Sleeper Studios. We have a online store. You can pretty much Google us. You'll see our Shopify store for Crimson Sleeper Studios online store. But right now, the best place to kind of get in touch with us right now is definitely on Kickstarter, because we have a bunch of goodies that are discounted or bundled up for your savings. And also we have a bunch of stretch goals that we're going to give you guys for free, because we've been raising more and more money. The more money we raise, the more free stuff you guys get. So if you tap in with us over there, it'll be the easiest way for you to kind of jump into the story, but also get a bunch of fun stuff that you won't be able to get again, because most of these stuff is going to be Kickstarter exclusives. So,
all right. Well, as I do with every guest on this show, before I let you go, and it's time for rapid fire, and here are the rules as always. 2 choices. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just wherever you are, that's where we're at. All right.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right, we can go. Let's do it.
All right.
I love a rapid fire.
All right. First up, Gohan or Naruto?
Naruto for sure. I love Teen Gohan, but Naruto's the GOAT.
Okay. Demon Slayer or One Piece?
One Piece for sure. Demon Slayer is great, but One Piece is the adaptation to live action really sold it for me. Like they got something special with that crew, and like Luffy's the real deal. Luffy's the real deal. That dude's a good friend. It's a really good friend.
He's a good friend of yours, huh? Y'all partners, huh? Okay. Well, speaking of Luffy or Goku?
Okay, so I love Luffy, but Goku is childhood favorite. Like even my mom likes Goku. Man, Goku's got pulled, bro. That's Goku. Luffy is really dope though, especially if we're talking fights or anything like that. I think Goku still got it. Don't get me wrong, Gear 5 Luffy is get the Toon Force and whatnot, but I think as far as like brand impact, at least to when I was a kid, and just who everyone was drawing when I was in elementary school, it's Goku.
All right.
I was tracing Goku in 3rd grade. I wasn't tracing Luffy.
Oh, all right, gotcha. Power Rangers or Voltron?
Power Rangers. I don't even have to think about that. Power Rangers all day.
See,
May the power protect all of us.
Oh, see. So I think that's an age thing, because for me, it's Voltron all day and on weekends as well. And
Voltron's hard though. I can't pretend. I do like Voltron, especially like the fact that they're all the same type of. Like they're all different colored cats. I like that. Like there's some uniformness to it. Like you don't feel like somebody got like the odd stick that season in Mega, because sometimes you gotta be the Armadillo Zord. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be the Frog Zord. You know, while your homies the bear, the wolf, the ape. You know what I mean? Sometimes you draw the nobody drew a short stick in Voltron, so I will say that. Plus also the Voltron fully load, like their full mech when they combine, very dope. Very
okay. Dope. All right, last one is the one everybody gets. Batman the Animated Series or Justice League Unlimited?
Justice League Unlimited. I love Batman the Animated Series, but Justice League Unlimited has a very, very deep place in my heart. So I have to really kind of say it immediately fast, like Power Rangers, not to cut you off. It's just, I already know. My heart already is there. Okay. I like Justice League Unlimited more than I like Justice League. Now, I know that that's very controversial because you get like the hour-long, really, really in-depth kind of those were some really fantastically written episodes in the original Justice League. Yeah. But I think I saw so many characters for the first time because of Justice League Unlimited. I wouldn't know who Hawk and Dove is without that. I wouldn't know who Captain Atom is without that. I wouldn't know who Fire is. Like her and Flash's little thing where he's like getting all like rosy cheek and blushing behind her. Yeah, no, I wouldn't know about any of these characters without that. And then like I wouldn't have gotten really definitive executions in a lot of the characters that I love on there. Like the art style is fantastic too. Like I love Justice League Unlimited.
All right. Well, with that being said, Justice League Unlimited is in the lead against Batman the Animated Series. I mean, it really is. It's for some it's tough to pick between the two because again, I will never forget Joe Ilyich. he really, when I gave it to him, he sat there and you're like, man, how can you do this to me? Because again, for a lot of us, Batman the Animated Series kicked it off.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when you look at the influence of Justice League Unlimited, and again, exposing heroes that you may not have seen in the comic books at that point, and when you see the influence that Dwayne McDuffie had on that series, that was his baby, and that kind of brought him back to DC. You can't let it go. I can't pick, so I just let everybody else pick. Yeah, that's for you all to do.
I feel that. Justice. I will say this though, Batman the Animated Series, like that Dark Deco style, if we don't evolve that and make it brighter as the Justice League comes into play, we don't get a Justice League Unlimited. So at least not stylistically. Yeah. So I will 100% admit that we need one to have the other. So that is an important talking point. Yeah,
Mark Bandy, man, I so enjoyed this conversation. Again, and I enjoyed it even more so because we had about a good 5-10 minutes before we started recording, just talking about home. And man, I'm gonna tell you, I might just travel to Alexandria and go to Pit Grill if it's still open out there.
Oh, it's there. I'm pretty sure Pit Grill's still open. Everybody still loves Pit Grill. Everybody loves Pit Grill.
If you go to Alexandria and you do not stop by the Pit Grill, you are missing out on some that you know how there is a hole in the wall grocery store, that corner store where you can just go and get that grocery store food, and it can be the best food in the world at 2:00 in the morning. Pit Grill is that place that's open during the day where you can go and you can just get, man, some hellified food. And every time I'm in Alexandria, that's the first place that I'm going. Yeah. So Mark, again, thank you so much for joining me here on the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Again, the Kickstarters for Psion 2, you'll be able to get Psion number 1 as well. You have until June 16th to get out there and get your support behind it. I've already done my pledge. Mark, again, thank you so much for joining me here on the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Have a good one, my friend.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And so, I want to thank Mark for joining me here on the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Again, the campaign for Psion number 2 is going on Kickstarter. It is live and it will end on June the 16th. So we have about a week left. Make sure you get out there and back it. We're closing in on another stretch goal. So we want to make sure that we hit those stretch goal marks and get all of those extra goodies if you are a physical backer. Again, I had to back it to get that Nicholas Draper Ivy variant cover, so I'm excited to see it once it comes in. But now I'm going to go ahead and play the interview that I did with Tony Kittrell over at Advent Comics, talking about some of their projects that are going on as they celebrate their 17th anniversary in the business. And we'll talk a little bit about his Kickstarter campaign for the new imprint that is coming out of Advent and the one shot that will kick it all off with Dog Valley. So here it is, my interview with comic book publisher and writer Tony Kittrell, talking about Advent Comics and their projects, as well as the Kickstarter campaign for Dog Valley. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side of that one as well. Hey folks, so as you all know, I do my best to back indie titles whenever I can. As I have been collecting books over these last 40 years, since I began at the age of 9, I have found myself more and more reading titles from publishers other than DC and Marvel. And even as of late, I've even moved more away from the likes of Image and have started, doing a lot of Kickstarter backings and everything. But one of the publishers that I started reading not too long ago, I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, was Advent Comics. And one of the first titles I picked up from them was Cosmos. And so I am very happy to have on the show this time Tony Kittrell, publisher and owner of Advent Comics, the publisher behind Cosmos. Tony, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm fine, Theo. Thank you for having me on your show, and hello to all your guests and all your fans.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you because again, I've been following Advent a while, and so for those who are not familiar with Advent Comics, what's the history? Tell them the story about what caused you to bring Advent to light.
Actually, Advent started back in 2009. On a humble, actually. My wife and I were out in San Diego for our anniversary, celebrating our anniversary, and we just so happened to be at the same hotel as Tyrese Gibson, the singer movie star. So I was at the bar, and I was like, "Hey, Mr. Gibson, I ain't trying to clock you or nothing. I just want to tell you I enjoy your music, enjoy your movies." He did a few Fast and Furious movies at this time. And I was like, okay. I said, you staying in the hotel? And he was like, yeah. He's taking some business out here. I said, oh, okay. I said, you about to do another movie? And I figured I'd get a scoop or something. He was like, nah, man, I'm here for Comic-Con. I said, San Diego Comic-Con? I said, you like comic books? He said, man, I have a comic book. And I was like, stop playing. He was like, nah, I got a comic book. He was like, you're not out here. And I told him, where I was from Maryland. He said, you're a long way from home? I was like, yeah. I said, me and my wife out here. He said, you going to Comic-Con? I was like, nah, man. I said, I love comics. I said, but I'm not going. He was like, you come on up to Comic-Con? And I was like, man, I got no tickets. He was like, I got you. So not only did he get me into Comic-Con, so I got to see his booth and stuff. He was at the Image booth. He had a comic book at the time called Mayhem. Image did a comic book for him called Mayhem. So I watched him, do his thing. He was signing and everything, got a picture of him that's still on my Facebook to this day. And I was like, okay. So I asked her, I said, well, do you mind if I walk around? He was like, you got a badge. You don't got to say, on my table. He said, go, see the sights. So I'm walking around. So my goal was, I've never been to Comic-Con. So let me see what they got going on up here. It was huge production. Anyone who's never been to Comic-Con, go. It's a spectacle. But I started thinking, I was like, I don't see no black faces in here. I'm like, where are the black faces? I said, I saw Tyrese, but that's it. So I found one other brother, and he was a disciple of Jim Kelly from Enter the Dragon, Jim Kelly. And he had a comic book called Lion Man. I cannot remember the brother's name. Forgive me. So I sat and talked to him for a while, and we talked for about a good 45 minutes. And I was like, looking all around, I ain't seen no brothers. I'm glad to see you. So I bought a few of his books, and we steady talking, told him, histories, and that's how I learned he was a disciple of Jim Kelly. And so he was like, well, there's one other brother up in here. He said, his table's like about 20 feet away. His name is Kobe Marks. And Kobe Marks had a book out called Storm Chasers at the time. And I was like, okay, cool. I said, I'll go check him out. I said, I got to support the brothers while I'm here. Went over to Kobe's table, bought his books, and, talked to him for a while. And I was like, bro, I said, I saw 3 black faces that were vending. I'm like, where are all the brothers? He was like, man, it's $1 billion business. He was like, most people don't know how much comic book. Now, mind you, it's 2009. He was like, comics is $1 billion business. Most people don't know basically how much comics, generate in money, in revenue. And he was like, and they don't let us in. And I was like, for real? He was like, no. He was like, you going to the black panel tomorrow? And I was like, nah, bro. I said, this is my first time at Comic-Con. I don't even know what's going on. He said, you got to be here tomorrow. He said, let me see your badge. So I showed him my badge. He said, oh, yeah. He said, you good. You can come back tomorrow morning. You got to be here by 10 o'clock. He said, make sure you're here before 10 o'clock. And I was like, okay. I said, where I go? He said, don't worry about it. Come here. You'll know where to go. And I was like, all right. So I went back to the hotel, told my wife, all excited. I'm like, man, but Tyrese, woo, all this and that. I said, I'm going back tomorrow. I said, you want to come? And she was like, no, I'll be here at the hotel. You go do your thing. So I went to the convention center, and he was like, I'll know where to go. So I just followed other black people. When I got upstairs, the line was around the building. And Comic-Con, the convention center is a big building. Line was around the wall, and I was like, good Lord. I'm like, all these black people here on a Saturday morning, it's like 9:30. So I said, is this the black panel? They was like, yeah, this the line. And I was like, man. So I managed to get in, got me a seat. So I'm surprised Kwame Holland, the rapper, he sat right in front of me. I was like, Kwame? He was like, yeah. Shook my hand, dapped me up and everything. I was like, okay, what we about to get into here? So Michael Davis, who was the head of the black panel, he comes out. He said, it's 10 o'clock. Y'all know what we doing. He was like, shut the doors. They shut the doors. A live DJ started playing, and they started partying. I was like, it was one big party, and all you saw was black faces. And I was like, oh, man, this is dope. This is dope. And then Ludacris came out. RZA from Wu-Tang came out. Uhura Nichols from Star Trek. Who else was on the panel that year? Busta Rhymes was there. I'm trying to remember who else was there. And a couple other people. He had like 7 people speaking on the panel. But anyway, they were talking about how it's the perfect time for Blacks to get into the fields of animation, comic books, all of the nerd spaces where, you know, basically people didn't think we would be in a carve out careers. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, yeah, that'll work. And so, you know, mind you, I saw while I was sitting there, all kinds of famous people in the crowd. So Mr. Dennis Cowan there, and I said, I gotta say hi to Mr. Cowan. I said, man, I love Milestone. And at the time, I didn't know Michael Davis was as big as he was with Milestone either. And I was like, man. So I waited until Mr. Cowan was by himself. Well, he was talking to somebody. And I was like, well, this is the perfect time. So I went over and introduced myself to him. He and the other guy looked at me like, all right, young man, what's good? And I was like, well, I just want to say I enjoyed your work for all these years. I've been a fan for many years. Told him this idea I had of like a black Superman character. Told him, I said, look, man, you know, we miss you at Milestone. We need something like, you know, to bring people back into comics. And he was like, yeah, okay. And so the other guy he was talking to at the time was like, I'd be interested in doing that idea. I was like, okay. So let me get your information. Turns out it was Ken Lashley. He was just doing Black Panther at the time. So he did the very first drawing of Titan Ultraman. Like I said, Titan Ultraman was just a character I had in my head since I was a kid. He was like a mix-up of characters, mashup of characters. There's a little bit of Black Lightning, Black Vulcan, Luke Cage. I mean, all these characters, like I said, he was a childhood character. So I had always had, you know, writing, you know, always had ambitions of doing comics, but life took me in another direction. Worked for the federal government, worked as a firefighter, career firefighter for years. But I was like, dude, I can write some comic books. Let's see what this is about. So I went and dug out all my old notes and characters and stuff, started writing comics. First one I wrote was called Pandemonium Eve Incarnate, which was like a 80-page graphic novel. And I put that one out on Amazon, and, you know, it sold so well. To the fact that a comic book shop from Dubai had contacted me personally and was like, can we buy direct from you copies of your book? And I was like, my book? And they were like, yeah, your book. And I was like, okay. And so, you know, my wife and my in-laws and everybody else was like, man, you two write comic books and get into comic books. They was like, give it a break. So when I showed my wife the first royalty check from Amazon, she was like, you gonna write another one? I was like, I guess I am. I guess I am. So my father-in-law was like, oh, okay, young man. He was like, do your thing. So we wrote a second one, which was a follow-up called Champions of Hope, where, well, suffice it to say, Advent came along. The idea of Advent was we needed something to take place of Milestone, and Advent literally means the coming of, or something that's on the way. So my thinking back then, you know, being full of myself, was the next coming of Milestone. So I didn't want to say the next coming of Milestone, so this was like Advent Comics. And they had a dual meaning, because I thought about what could make our comics different from everybody else's, because at the time everything was dark and gritty and all that. And I was like, okay, how can I give people a comic that would fit in with everything else, but also be different? So I did a comic universe that had a biblical God and devil in it, and I kind of put a spin on it. And the first book, Pandemonium Evil Incarnate, was there was no God on Earth. He left Earth, or he left the universe, and everything was dark and gritty. And I introduced the villains first, and then Champions of Hope, I introduced God, and I introduced the heroes, and people kind of resonated to it. And I was like, oh man. I was like, if I never do this again, oh well. You know, I put the ideas out there that would basically take it to another level. If people liked it, I could do more. If not, not. But they resonated to it, and they were like, yeah, that's different. We like it. And I was like, nobody's gonna like stories that have evil and demons and angels and all that kind of stuff, but and superheroes, but they resonated to it. And then I had always had, back in the 90s, I had written a story for Marvel when they had this thing called Epic, where they were taking submissions for writers and artists and everything, and it made it to the second round of editorial. It was a story written for Adam Warlock. And it made it, like I said, it made it through editorial, second round of editorial, and they were like, oh, we're going to do something a little different with the character. What I found out was they're going to kill Warlock again, so that's why they didn't do anything with the story. But I was like, this story made it to Marvel. They liked it, at least enough to look at it a second time. I was like, I'm going to use this. So I dusted it off, and I was like, it had all of Marvel's cosmic characters in it. Everything, because I was a big Marvel cosmic character guy since I was a kid. Every single Marvel cosmic character was in this book. And I was like, man, how can I use this without getting sued by Marvel? So I made a different character to represent Adam Warlock, named him Genesis. But I said, I need to do something different that's going to stand out and make Cosmos stand out. So what I did was I went to other publishers and asked them, could their characters guest star in a book I'm doing called Cosmos? So I got over 100 indie comic book publishers, big and small, who appear in Cosmos. And matter of fact, the latest book finally has, that's where like some of the big wigs starting to come in. You had Eric Larson's Dragon, Mike Byrne and Steve Ruth's Nexus is in it, Concrete Comics Acolytes in it, you name it, big and small are in there. And this is just the start of the characters' guest stars. So, that's how it started, man. And, people resonated to it, and each book grew and grew and grew, and we got a little fan base. And, people still in the States don't know us, but we're selling on 6 continents and 55 countries outside the country. So people know us. But, now it's time to bring Advent to America and let people know who we are. And most people are like your stuff, never heard of you before. Yeah, we do our thing. And a lot of people who did hear of us, like shops, were like, oh, I got to have your book in my store. Are you with Diamond? At the time, I was like, no, I'm not with Diamond. So that stopped a lot of stores from the States from carrying our books, because they were like, oh, you're not with Diamond, we don't trust you. So I finally got with Diamond, but back in 2018, I believe. And they were like, okay. Diamond actually had passed on me like 4 times before that. And I was like, wow, I'm like, they don't think we're doing good stuff. And like everybody else says, they like our books, we're doing good stuff. And so I spoke with Marcus Roberts, who is one of the CFO of Second Sight Comics, another Black comic book publisher. He was like, bro, he's like, no, your stuff is dynamite. He was like, let me give you the formula to get your books in Diamond. So basically, where I was just showing them a title at a time or whatever, submitting a title at a time, he said, just flood the market, flood the zone. So I hit Diamond with like about 13, 14 of our books. And I told them, I said, well, look, I got this book on our Creator Online called Unbound Random. I'll be publishing this one by Mike Barron. I'll be publishing this one by this person. And they hit me back like 20 minutes later, like, we got you in Diamond. They was like, we didn't know you was doing all this. And I was like, well, all those books I sent you, I just didn't send them to you all at the same time. And they were like, nah, we want you. And I got in Diamond in the first 6 months, the first 6 months, 6 months straight, every single Advent book that went in there, at least one of them was Gem of the Month. They was like, oh, y'all are killing. They were like, where y'all been? It's like, we've been here. Y'all just ain't been looking for us. But, and that's the thing. Advent's probably the best comic book company you've never heard of. Never heard of. But we're going to change that.
Up on you.
We're looking to change that.
You snuck up on them, huh?
Yeah, we're looking to change that.
So now it is 17 years later, or at least it will be in August of this year.
Yes, August 1st. August 1st makes 17 years.
What you got planned?
Well, we got a big Kickstarter. Now that other bigger projects are out of the way. It was supposed to be our 15th anniversary project, but I was working on a little thing called Epiphany Engine, so I pushed a lot of my titles back so I could work on that. But now that Epiphany Engine is done and we're getting down to the home stretch, I decided to release my books that I put on the side. The anniversary book, which is actually our 17th anniversary now, is called Epics. So that will be coming out. Last time I counted, it was like 120 pages. And that's before possible add-ons to the story that I'm debating on if I'm going to add them on here or use them for a different book. We got everybody in the mother on this one. We got, you name it, we got Greg Burnham and Marcus Williams who are on it. Raymond Gay is on covers. Kanan White, Sean Damien Hill, Jose Luis, Nathan Diaz. We got we reunited Ron Mars and Bart Sears for a story. Bart was on our very first book, did our very first cover, and he returned for this one on a couple different things. So I'll leave that out there. But so they did a story that's coming out. Like I said, man, we just gonna blow the walls off. We're blowing the walls off, man.
Right. Well, before August gets here, you have another campaign that you're bringing to life in June. Tell us about Doll Valley.
Doll Valley. So, like I said, I'm formerly a career firefighter. I left and retired from the fire department after almost 30 years in 2024. And before I left, a couple of my friends had gotten mad at me and was like, "You never put this in one of your comic books." Because it's a thing, because a lot of the characters in one of my other books on Titan the Ultraman, I put co-workers in as firefighters and police officers and such, nurses, doctors. And so a couple of my friends were like, put us in the comic book. And I was like, man, I'll get you in the comic book. So like 8 of my friends were like, nah, we won't be in no little superhero BS stuff. We want to be in a real comic book. I said, a real comic book? They was like, yeah, man, we don't want to be the superhero funny book stuff. Put us in a real comic book. So 2 things. If you know firefighters, we've got a long history of playing jokes on each other, pranks and stuff. So I was like, man, okay, these jokers want to be in a comic book. I'll put them in a comic book. I was like, how can I prank them and, still put out a decent comic book? So that's what Doll Valley came along. Doll Valley is basically a grindhouse horror story that combines elements of 80s slasher movies, 90s gore movies. It's got some dark humor. It's got a little twang of erotic bad girl stuff in it. But like I said, at its story core, it's a horror story. So my buddies actually get killed. I find it crazy ways to kill all my buddies. And so they was like, come on, bro, you can't do us dirty. I'm like, hey, you want to be in this story? You're going to be in this story. So it's funny. It's funny the different ways that I make sure my boys get their demise in the book, but it's all love. And it turned out to be a decent story. So we're going to bring that to the fans in a couple weeks. June 1st, it drops on Kickstarter. It almost didn't drop because Kickstarter changed their rating habits. Now, a couple covers we had, they show,
a little risque, but
little risque.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I had to take those off, but so it's they still passed it, and it's coming your way in about 2 weeks, and it's fun. It's a 28-page story. We're doing free shipping on it. We're bringing it to everybody, and so hopefully, I think everybody will like it, man. It's something fun. We got so many good things involved with it. As a matter of fact, here's one of the books right here, Doll Valley. This is one of the variant covers. So you're gonna love the different things we got going on with Doll Valley. Special metal cover, Doll Valley.
I will have a link to the campaign page in the show notes. Make sure you all are following that. Look, so truth be told, when the whole Kickstarter thing dropped earlier this week, first thing I did was I emailed this guy because I signed up for the pre-launch. I'm like, Tony, did you see what Kickstarter did? They're not gonna mess with the title, huh? You good? You're like, man, we straight. I got it taken care of. I'm like, all right, we good then.
Because I was nervous too when I heard it, and I was like, whoa, what? I was, and like I said, for the longest time, and I'm saying this, and I don't mean it as a slight to anyone. They had to convince me to use Kickstarter because the longest time I was like, I'm not going to have nobody pay for my books when I don't need them to pay for it. I'm like, I can pay for it and bring it to market. But I saw Kickstarter. Eventually, I saw Kickstarter for what it was. It was a way to build up communities for your books and your titles, and basically take the titles directly to people and let them say, okay, I want to read that. Basically, it was a comic book shop without the middleman. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I thought about it, and then we started building up a community on Kickstarter. And I was like, okay. So every Kickstarter campaign I do, and this is a rule with me, no matter what it is, I try to do something and give the people something that they can't get anywhere else. Because if you're going to take your time out to support us and, follow our Kickstarter campaigns, when you can just simply, if you choose to, wait till it hits the comic book shop or wait till it hits the website or what have you, but you took your time out to support us, we got to give you something special. So every campaign that we run, and right now, this is going to, Dog Valley is going to be my 34th Kickstarter campaign altogether. Well, not Kickstarter, excuse me. 34th crowdfunding campaign. Kickstarters, I think I've got like total of like 23, 24. And the other 10 on other platforms.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I just try to give people something special each time. And we got some good stuff coming for you on the Dog Valley thing that I think you'll like. Whether it's box sets, whether it's prints, special covers by different big names that you'll
we'll know when we see them.
You'll know when you see them. Yeah, just a couple more weeks and you'll be able to see them.
Okay.
You'll be able to see them.
So Dog Valley is a horror story, but that's not the end of horror for Advent. You are kicking off a new imprint that will focus strictly on horror. Tell us a little bit about Shriek.
It's the Shriek horror line, and Dog Valley will be the first title off of the Shriek line. And I'm kind of excited about it because my goal is to get people outside of Advent eventually to come in and write stories for the line. Then the first 4 books are already in the pipeline, and I have actually issue 5 that I'm just finishing up writing this weekend. But like I said, I want to bring in other writers from other parts of the fandom and have them write for Shriek too. But like I said, it's I love horror. I love horror movies, and I always wanted to do this. And like I said, the guys over at, just to use them, because they are the creme of the creme, Second Sight, these guys do horror like nobody else. Bradley Golden, Marcus Roberts, they don't get enough credit because not only did they do the Shook books, but they have like a line of horror titles that are just out of this world, out of this world. So they are the black publisher in terms of horror. And like I said, I was like, man, I love horror. So I want to, get into their lane, but I got to do something with horror. And Shriek was just, a natural thing that I wanted to do. And we got some good titles coming up. Got Frightmares. We got our Chamber of Terror book that's going over that way, and a few other titles that are coming up.
So let me ask you this, because I've asked other creators, whether they're artists or writers, their opinions on this question. But let me ask you this as a publisher: why is horror so big? I will admit that I am not a huge horror fan. The original Night of the Living Dead just ruined it for me. I watched it as a kid, had nightmares for days. It ruined my life. So I will pick them up every once in a while. But why does horror have such a place in the comic book genre today that it's an explosion? And I don't just mean zombie books. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. People, in my opinion, like to be scared. They like to be scared, and they like the thrill of the scare. I'll say that, the thrill of the scare. Basically, as a kid, I would like to go on roller coasters. Terrified of them, but I would love to go on roller coasters. Hit the top of the thing, and you look down, you see that all you see is air, and it's like, you know, I want to do that again. It's that thrill. And that's kind of like what it is with horror. People love the thrill. But comics, not everybody likes superheroes. Not everybody likes science fiction. Horror has its own niche, just like science fiction has its own niche. And those two, in my opinion, and I'm saying this as a publisher and as a comic book fan, are underdeveloped in the Black space, comic book spaces. Horror and science fiction, untapped. And if you are a creator of some type and you like those two genres, go for it. Now's the time to do it. I will recommend to do it because, like I said, everybody's doing superheroes. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing that. There are not a lot of people in the horror spaces or the science fiction spaces. So if you have an itch to get into it and that's your thing, do it. Do it.
All right. And so how soon after Dog Valley will we be hearing about more coming out of Shriek?
Well, the next title is Frightmare's. There's Frightmare's Hijinks, which is being drawn and finished now. There's the reunion that's already done, but the way it's slated, it has to come after Hijinks. And then you're going to see Chamber of Terror. That's being switched over from the main Advent line to Shriek, so you'll get that. So you're going to be seeing a lot more. You're going to see a lot more of the Shriek titles, like back to back. So I may release a couple titles that are already done and that fit the line on Shriek, as opposed to bringing them through Advent or through the creator-owned comic line, Unbound Realms. So you may see one or two titles come this year as well. Still debating it, but it's almost a given. You're going to see at least one more title from Shriek before the end of the year.
Okay, so I know we have Epoch that's coming out. It's coming out a little bit late because you wanted it out, for the 15th, but things happen for obvious reasons.
Epics is coming. Epics is coming. I didn't feel right releasing another Kickstarter as big as it was behind Epiphany Engine not being done. So I put everything on hold until I got Epiphany Engine done. So once Epiphany Engine was done to a place where I really felt comfortable, like, okay, we're going to have this done soon, real soon. Then I started doing other Kickstarters. And we've run 2 Kickstarters so far this year. We've run the Southside trade paperback. Southside was a big urban noir thriller that we had in the comic book shops. Put that in trade paperback form. That was successful with Kickstarter a few months ago. And then we're finishing up Cosmos 9, which is finishing up 12-issue maxi series. We're still working on that. Issue 10 is almost done, and it's looking fire, my friend. Fire. Right. It's gonna be 48 pages. So we're bringing that to you. And the next 3 issues of Cosmos, actually, you're gonna see nothing but guest stars. But I just didn't feel right at the time releasing new stuff. But now that Epiphany Engine's almost done, I released Cosmos 9, I released Southside, and released Dog Valley and Epic. So you're gonna see nothing but Advent, and over probably the next year, straight Advent. All the stuff I pushed back for 2 years is coming at you now.
So let's talk a little bit about Epiphany Engine, because I'll be honest, the very first time I heard about it was on Joseph Ilyich Facebook page. He had mentioned the story getting ready to drop and about the Kickstarter. And I'm like, wait a minute, as much as I'm on Kickstarter, I didn't see nothing about an Epiphany Engine, but it didn't necessarily start as Epiphany Engine.
No, it started before that. There was a gentleman who was from a group on Facebook called the Black Comic Lords. So he had put out a TikTok that I just happened to see, and he had tagged me and a few other Black publishers in it. And he talked about this book called War of the Independence, which is done by a good friend of mine named Dave Ryan over at Red Ant Comics. And, Red Ant issue 2 had like all the Black heroes at the time in the 90s, early 2000s in it. Titan is actually in it as well. My character, Titan Ultraman. So he was saying, these Black crossovers, War of Independence, and Marvel did something similar, but in-house, where they had like all the major Black heroes crossover and Black Panther. And he was like, why don't Black publishers today do something like that? And he tagged us in it. And I was like, that's a good question. So I took it over to Facebook, where I'm over there quite a bit underneath my page. And I put out a call to the whole comic book community. I was like, y'all think, we're ready for something like that? You think the fans are ready for something like that? And it was a resounding yes. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I was like, okay, cool. I was content to just be a part of it if it manifested. But Dave Ryan himself from War of Independence, he chimed in. He was like, you got to lead this, Tony. I was like, what you mean? No, I'm going to be a part of it, but I'm not going to lead it. He was like, nah. He was like, you doing Cosmos, which is similar. He's like, you got over 100 companies in Cosmos. He was like, you'd be the perfect person to do it. I'm like, nah. But then more people kept saying, yeah, you got to do it, Tony. You got to do it. And I was like, okay. Thought about it. I was like, man, do I really want to take on that? That's going to be a headache. And I said, but you know what? It's bigger than that. This is something that's going to be huge for the community. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And I know when it started kicking off, and I knew in my mind how big it was going to be. I was like, yeah, I got to be a part of this. And I was like, even if it's just to make sure it gets done, I got to be a part of it. And so that's what it was. And my characters don't even play a big part in Epiphany. Not too much. It's basically all the other publishers and all of the other people that came together for Epiphany Engine. Man, this thing is special, man. This thing is special. And when y'all see it, y'all gonna be like.
I mean, and you can see in the cover as it coming across the preview of the video. I mean, when you just the colors and all, and there are some awesome Black publishers involved with this story, and some awesome creators of color that are involved with this story as well. Let me tell you, and you all who follow me will know, I will pick up almost anything that Brandon Thomas writes. He can write Gone with the Wind, and I'm picking it up. So there are some names in there that you will definitely recognize. So you definitely have to pick this up.
Brandon Thomas is the main writer on the book, and people like Rodney Barnes, Greg Burnham, you got Avril Ball, you got Robert Jeffrey, Colleen Douglas. I mean, so many writers. Then on the artist tip, interior artists like Sean Damon Hill, Kanan White, and Stephen Harris, Greg Maldonado from the Milestone Initiative, Jason Reeves, Daryl Banks from DC. I mean, it's so many names, man. I'm so Ronnie Barnes. I don't know if I said his name or not. So many people that I'm so thankful for, and there were people who I reached out to, and I wasn't able to get a hold of who I wanted to be a part of it. And then there were people who I didn't know how to reach out to them that I wanted to be a part of it. But maybe if this clicks and future stuff goes well, people want to see other things like that with other people come together. And I'm quite sure there will be, not just from Advent, there are people working behind the scenes now doing other collaborative issues. And I think you're going to see a lot more things like this in the future, Black publishers and creators working together. So that, to me, that's it. That's, if anything positive came out of that alone is something that I could be like.
The continuation of it.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah. So for all of you who backed it on Kickstarter, you all will be getting your fulfillments pretty soon. For all of us,
to the point now where I want a few more things to get done, because like right now we're going through, along with the editorial team, myself, We're going through. We're editing the book. And initially it was supposed to be 192 pages, but last time we counted, it's like 212, 216. Yeah, so we're going through the edits on that and making sure everything's, all the I's are dotted and T's across. The last few pages are being colored now. Then the rest of it was going to go over to Ann World Design, Deron Bennett and his team, and they're going to finish it up. And it's coming your way.
Man, Ann World Design.
A lot of people. They working.
Oh,
they working.
They are some. That's an awesome crew right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Because they are knocking it out the park on these letters.
So again, all you backers, the light at the end of the tunnel is starting to show for you.
Yeah, but can I say something really quick on that end? I apologize to everybody for it being so late. I don't know if everybody's been seeing my posts and things over the past 2 years. Yes, it's late, very late, and I apologize for that. And I take the heat for it. 1,000%, I take the heat for it. And I can only say it's because of ego and hubris. And I have to put that on me because, and I say, let me explain. I know what I'm capable of and I know what I can do, but I underestimated this project just a little bit. And there are other factors that happened that slowed it up as well. But it's all on me. I thought we could have it done a certain time frame. We didn't get it done. So I'm getting it to you as quick as I can. I want to thank everyone for being patient. Like I said, good things do come to those who wait, and hopefully you guys think it's good because we're trying everything. When you get in your hands, hopefully you like it. I think you'll like it. I hope you like it.
Well, if there's anything I appreciate about it, as someone again who has been doing a lot of backing on Kickstarter, I have been now I don't want to use the word victim, but I have had several experiences where projects that I have backed, I'm seeing in comic book shops and I'm still waiting. So the fact that you're taking care of your backers first means a lot to me.
I'm trying, and I know to some people I'm not doing enough, and I get that and I receive that, and I'm gonna try to make it right on all fronts. But like I said, I just ask for a little bit more grace, and I hope you all, when you get it in your hands, you see this is truly a labor of love. And I think once you see it, you can be like, okay, they put everything they had into this book, and it's gonna show. It's gonna show.
All right. So in this last few minutes that we're together, what does the future hold for Advent Comics? What's next?
The next 17 years? Okay, we got a lot of things on the horizon. Like I said, we got the new Shriek imprint. We got an imprint called Lore that's about to drop, where most people are dropping new imprints and new books. I'm putting together a new publisher. Lore eventually is going to split off from Advent to be their own publisher. So I'm in the process of making sure that they get off the ground and basically let them be self-sufficient. So we're gonna add to the game. So each one teach one and bring one up. So I'm bringing publishers. Now. I'm done bringing titles and imprints. I'm bringing whole publishers now.
Okay. So how can fans keep up with what's going on with you and with Advent?
We're on all the socials. If you want to reach out to Advent Comics, they're on Facebook, they're on X Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Blue Sky, we're on Threads, you name it. I have a personal account over on Facebook, so you can always keep up with us. Just keep in mind, and I have to preface this, my personal page on Facebook, some comic stuff is there, but you'll see my pinings and my thoughts on things. Some people tell me the old shut up and just dribble thing. I ain't never gonna shut up. You got the wrong one for that. So if you like certain things that happen in the day, I'm probably not the place you need to be, because I don't rock with a lot of stuff that's happening right now. Take it for what it is. If you're like-minded, feel free to come over to Facebook and hit my personal page. But I don't shy away from anything.
I will have links in the show notes for you all to go and follow what's going on for Advent Comics and Shriek and Lore as it starts to roll out. So Tony, you are not going to get away with this, just like every other guest that has been on this show.
Yes, sir.
It is
Okay.
time for rapid fire.
Okay, sure.
2 choices. You get to pick. Of either one, there's no right or wrong answers. And since you are a Marvel Cosmo guy, let's go Marvel Cosmos. All right.
Okay, let's do it.
First up,
Uh-huh.
Adam Warlock or Thanos?
Adam Warlock.
All right.
Warlock. I grew up in the era where Warlock was, coming up in issues of Thor and Fantastic Four. I'm dating myself. As you can see from the beard, I'm that old.
You ain't alone.
So, yeah.
You ain't alone.
So I've always been a Warlock fan. Starlin just cemented that for me. So,
yeah. Starlin submitted Adam Warlock for me too, especially with Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh yeah.
All right, next up, Silver Surfer or Nova?
Ooh, okay. Because I had a personal connection with Rich Buckler, who worked on Cosmos with me until his passing. Gotta be Nova.
All right.
I'm a big original Nova fan. I don't like his current costume. You give me 70s Nova costume, 70 Nova Rich. That's my man.
All right. Sticking with Nova, let's go with the Nova Corps.
Okay.
And Guardians of the Galaxy.
Can I say original Guardians of the Galaxy?
You can.
Okay, then it's a lock for me. Original Yondu, Marty, Nikki, Starhawk. That's my squad. That's my team.
Yeah, you don't have a problem with Peter Quill, but he ain't for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. People like the movies and all that, but original Star-Lord back in the 70s when he had his own one-shot book, I liked his costume. I liked the character. But I'm a big original Guardians fan, more so than the current Guardians.
Okay. All right. Galactus or Lady Death? We going celestial side now. We going celestial.
Yeah. Okay. Are you asking me who's more powerful?
Who would you pick? Who would you pick? Plain and simple.
I like story-wise. I like Galactus, but when Death is on the scene, Death just shuts it down. But there's so much you can do with Death that Marvel hasn't done, instead of just being the consort of Thanos. But I mean, I ain't gonna give him no idea, so I might use it for my own. But Galactus, story-wise, Galactus is the man. He's the man.
All right. So this is going to be my last one, and it's the only one that's not Marvel Cosmos, but it's the one that everybody gets to close out. Batman the Animated Series or Justice League Unlimited?
I mean, shoot. That's a hard one, bro. I loved Batman, and to be honest, I'm not a big Batman fan, but the animated series, creme de la creme. But I'm also a fan of like B and C and D list characters getting their shine. So Justice League Unlimited, you had characters like at the time Vigilante, you had characters like Captain Atom who were getting shine. So I like that aspect of it. Batman is the best of the two, but I like the aspect that you got to see so many different characters appear in Justice League Unlimited. But to me, Batman is the top. I gotta go with Batman.
All right. So yeah, I've been keeping count, and so now Batman animated series is up by 1. It's been going back and forth.
Yeah, that's the hard one. That's probably the hardest one you said, because as soon as you said Justice League Unlimited, I was like, oh, easy. And then I was like, oh, but Batman, that's rough. That's rough. Yeah, that's rough.
Tony Kittrell, publisher of Advent Comics, thank you so much for joining me here on the Comic Book Podcast.
thank you for letting me be here with you and your fans. And hopefully this is the first of many. If you don't mind, I'll let it come back, man.
We'll love to have you back. Talk to you later.
You got it. Right. You got it, brother.
So again, I want to thank Tony Kittrell for joining me here on the podcast, talking about all the projects going on over at Advent Comics, as well as the Kickstarter campaign for Doll Valley. That campaign runs through July 1st, so if you haven't backed it yet, please go out there and do so. It is running until July the 1st, and it's closing in on its funding goal. But of course, we not only want it to reach its funding goal, but we want to get those stretch goals as well. If you are a veteran Kickstarter campaign backer, you know how important it is to get those stretch goals met as well. But again, I want to thank him for joining. I am a backer. I have I think I ordered 2 different covers for this campaign, and I may go back and make a few changes to get a 3rd one, but we shall see. But yeah, get out there and support not only Doll Valley, but also Psion, that is running through June the 16th over at Kickstarter as well. They got a couple of more stretch goals that it needs to reach as well, that I'm hoping to get, especially with those coasters. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Next episode, I will be coming in live from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Heroes Con 2026. I'm very excited about this coming weekend. As you know, I've done panels in the past. I've done a few over at Fan Expo, but I am very excited to be moderating the panel on Saturday at 3:30 in room 206, talking about the perspective of comic book podcasting amongst people of color. And I have a great slate of panelists that will be joining me on the panel to talk about the effects of comic book podcasting on the community of Black fans as well as Black creators. But yeah, if you're in the Charlotte area, you plan on attending Heroes Con, make sure you head on out on Saturday afternoon at 3:30 and join me and my panelists. I'll have Dr. Ebony Toussaint from Aurora Comics Podcast. I'll have BJ Kicks from Comics Are Dope, and I'll also have Toshi J from Melanin Minds, as well as she's also a publisher as well for Midnight Comics, and I'll be picking their brains this weekend to talk about how they do podcasting and where they see podcasting going in the future amongst people of color. But very excited about it. Hope to see you all there. I will be having prizes and giveaways throughout the panel. So if you're in attendance, make sure if you're in attendance at the convention, make sure you, again, stop by room 206 and join in the conversation that we'll be having. But I'm very excited about it, and I hope to see you all there. But again, that's going to do it for this episode, the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I will be seeing you all in a few days as I start posting my updates from Heroes Con 2026 at the Charlotte Convention Center. Again, very excited about the weekend. But until then, keep reading those comics. Until Saturday. That is going to do it for this episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support of the program. The Comic Bin Podcast, as well as the Comic Book Spot, are a part of the Comic Book Source family of sites and media. You can follow the podcast on Twitter X at comic_bin, or my personal account at BatmanFan_4life. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. We're all over social media. You can also follow our sister site over at thebatmanuniverse.net for all of your news and reviews in the world of Batman. Tune in next time as we give you more in the world of comic books. Again, we truly appreciate your support. But until we meet again next time, keep reading those comics.